Week 14 wraps up with Jalen Hurts and company running over the Saints. King Henry continues to show why he should be the first running back to win MVP since 2012. And we witnessed an event that has not happened in 11 years, plus the NFL news and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics. Welcome back to the Average Rose Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. As always, I am joined by my average brother, Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing just about average, I guess you could say. Had a okay week in fantasy in the leagues I'm still left in, thanks to the legs of Kareem Hunt in an absolute monster game between both teams, not just on him in general. But yeah, very thankful headed into this week.
Yeah, I kind of at the end of the day, I kind of decided to abandon all hope on my my fantasy leagues. I'm just kind of looking forward to next year's draft and looking forward to doing a complete overhaul on my team as far as dynasty. And then I'm sort of giving up hope on my New Orleans Saints after this week's loss to the Eagles. And I thought that we should just get the obvious out of the way now. And I kind of wanted to just ask you on a quick opinion, what do you think happened on the game on why they lost?
I think it was exactly what we had talked about on last week's show. Just the unknown factor, right? I mean, nobody has any play film on Hurts. Nobody knew what kind of game plan that the Eagles were going to roll out with them. And then you don't know what the vibe of the team is. Are you going to get a replacements mentality or they've been here before, the same mentality when Nick Foles stepped in? Is this going to be, revitalize the team? Or is this going to cause a riff and say, hey, why are you benching our guy and Wentz and, move forward? But they did enough to get the job done. Not a clean win by any means, but like you said, enough to knock off the Saints in what could possibly have been just an overlooked game on their part.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And we have, I don't want to butcher your name, Kevin. Kevin, how would you pronounce that?
It's Chuko Hyde. How are you? As Chuko dropped a comment here, I want to remind everybody at home watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter to comment throughout the night. We'll throw them up on the screen and have a chat with you guys. I see Jenna is out there with us as well. Jenna, how are you?
Yeah, kind of just to recap what you were saying. Yeah, I think it was just kind of an overlooked game. I think the Saints went in there knowing that they were the expected to win team, and I know pretty much all throughout the show it's going to be it's going to be mainly talked about throughout the whole show on why they lost, and like I said, we'll get into it in the show. But before we get into our show tonight, as always, we would like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. And unlike traditional British darts, American football darts is a game that combines both the skill of darts and the strategies of football. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. And as always, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the show, and follow us on all of our social media platforms, as you see here at the bottom of the screen. And of course, if you guys aren't able to check us out live here on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, make sure you guys go over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, listen to us there. I completely do it. Because I know there's a bunch of times I get caught and I can't watch the show live. whether it's the Empty Wagon guys or Brian and my average brother Kevin on Wednesday nights. So I always use Apple Podcasts to listen to them. And always check out our new website, fsa-fr.com. They got everything you need as far as fantasy and as far as seeing our beautiful logo on their website. And if you like us, if you like Brian and Kevin on Wednesday nights, I think you guys will also like Brad, Josh, and Eric on the Empty Wagon. Head on over and check them out. They give you their heroes and villains for the upcoming week, as well as a ton of comedy and a bunch of NFL news that either recaps what we talk about or news that comes up after our show, or just some news that I overlook throughout the week, being as I am a average Josh. And I believe that wraps up our whole intro. And I'm going to give it to you, Kevin, as I am out of breath here. So I want you to kick us off with your first winner for this week. Take it away, bud.
First, I see that Chuko and Eric are here with us before I give you our winners. He says that he's ready to hop into next season as far as fantasy goes. And this is about the time where we're going to start to bring it up for everybody that is in Dynasty. As I know, as far as FSA is concerned, this is the first week of the playoffs for those guys. So if you are heading into next year, if you're looking at rankings, predictions, projections, or Dynasty targets for you, this is about the time that we're going to start to sprinkle that kind of stuff in here a little bit, and we'll look ahead of next year, as a lot of seasons have ended already this year for some folks. I know myself and redraft being one of them. But my big winners for this week, number one's got to be Aaron Rodgers, putting up 38.4 points this week, having himself a game. And I think planting himself right in the mix of things for the MVP race, headed into the playoffs pretty handedly, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And just before I kind of dive into that, we have Eric here saying, make sure you go with the top dogs and not my heroes. Eric, I can assure you that this episode or this week's section for the top dog is going to be an interesting one, mixing it up a little bit. And you guys will definitely find out later on in the show. And yeah, I completely agree with you as far as Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's getting up there in age, but I think he's still showing these young guys with Mahomes and Josh Allen how he can still sling the ball, and especially in an important win over a division rival with the Lions, and then also with the Saints loss that puts them back up at the number 1 seed, so they can inch closer to that first round bye. I know with there only being one team getting the bye this year, it is a hot commodity to get this year. And speaking of, you're talking about the older guys, I'm going with the young guys as my first winner of this week, and mentioned his name at the beginning of the show. And like I said, it's going to be the topic of today's show. It's going to be Jalen Hurts, 24.78 points on his first official start for the Eagles, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, had 1 fumble in there. But when you get a win and you put up the points that you put up, it's easy to overlook. And then as well as rushing for 106 yards. No other team has been able to do it since 2017. I know Miles Sanders did it as well, but Jalen Hurts is more of the surprising factor, being as, like I said, it's his first NFL start. And real quick, before you kind of spitball with me, Kevin, we have Jenna saying she's going to sneak out. She got some stuff to do. Jenna, you have a beautiful night.
Good night, Jenna. And I don't know how well those Raiders will be going. We got some NFL news on them in a little bit here.
Yes,
down a player.
Do. And we have Chuko. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name terribly. Has him saying, Allen has surprised me a lot this season. I think Allen has surprised everyone a lot this season.
I would say everyone outside of myself. I went on record as putting Josh Allen as close to the top 5, definitely inside the top 10 as far as quarterbacks go. I had him, right up there with the other young guys. The arm that he has. Looking at the mistakes that he started to correct last year, ran that right into this year as far as the deep ball accuracy and the turnovers, especially on deep balls. Got a lot of that fixed. You throw in Stefan Diggs and a true deep threat. I mean, it's got to be somebody that should have had a lot of shiny lights around them, but coming out of a division and that is typically not gone in the Bills' favor, and coming from the Bills, who overall has not done well in years past. It's an easy team to overlook, an easy player to overlook. Um, he's right up there in the MVP race for me as well. I don't know if he'll catch the guys ahead of him in Henry, uh, Mahomes, and Rogers, but for me, I think that he gets at least one vote this season.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking for not only you, but out of myself as well. I'm waiting for the strength challenge here. When are we just going to drop everything? We're just going to throw the teams to the side. We're going to throw the Bills to the side, throw the Chiefs to the side. I want Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes next to each other on a football field and just settle it. I think it's about time they need to settle it.
Who's got the deeper ball?
Yes, Roger Goodell set it up. It needs to happen. And we have
back in the day.
We have my girlfriend Mom Kim saying, "Hey Josh, hey guys, I know you guys were just here, but business as usual, taking care of the show." Chuko coming in saying, "I regret shading him off early this season." I think Kevin can tell you.
I'd be interested to see what you got for him, though. It might have been a sell high value, and the players that you got back might have been somebody that you were hoping to bank on back, maybe a Zeke type trade. We all know how he's panned out, but as far as the strength competition goes, I know that it was when I was young. I know way ahead of your time, Josh, but the NFL used to have a passing competition where you would start back on the goal line and throw the ball, but it wasn't a catch though.
No, yeah, I remember.
The ball just hit the ground. I want to see a completed pass. Who can throw the longest completed pass?
Oh yeah,
because that's what matters.
Well, I think there's only one man who can be running the route for both men. I know he's Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy, but I think it's only fair you give him to both quarterbacks. I think they need the cheetah running the route for them, and I think it's easily it would easily be a great competition.
I don't know. I might call on AB.
Antonio Brown.
Yep.
You think Antonio Brown? Okay, now we're going into a whole separate. Now we're going into.
I'm not talking about speed, but as far as size, a bigger target with hands to catch a deep ball, I might go AB. Who knows?
Okay, before we get into our next winner for this week or loser, whoever you decide to go to, let's dive into it a little more. Is there a defender on them?
No, it's just you have to catch the ball deep. That's all.
So it's just quarterback and wide receiver on the field.
Yep. I say hike, you run or jog, whatever you got to do to get down there, and you throw the ball.
Well, I mean,
you have all 32 quarterbacks lined up. You start on the goal line and have your receivers run a 35-yard out. You start there, they catch it, you move on, and you keep backing it up until you see who's got the furthest completion.
And you do have viewers backing you on AB.
See?
So you know what? I'll agree with you for the sole purpose of Mahomes and Tyreek Hill have that chemistry. So yes, let's bring in a third separate team wide receiver. I'll go with the majority here, and I'll say AB. Bring in a third wide receiver, no chemistry. They've never played with each other unless they were in the Pro Bowl together. Like I said, Roger Goodell, let's make it happen. It needs to come back.
Speaking of people that have chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, my next winner for the week is going to be Travis Kelce, the number one receiver, if you will, in the league, leading in yards. above all receivers and by far the number one tight end in the league. Put up 30.6 points this week in FSA and MFL standard scoring. Just absolutely having himself a game. And when you name guys like Tyreek Hill and you throw in the fact that they've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they've got Le'Veon Bell, they have all kinds of weapons all over the field here. We know that Mahomes can run the ball too if he wants. So when you take all that into consideration to say that their tight end is putting up this many yards to be the number one guy in the league, that says tremendous amount about their offense and their play scheme and just the individual ability of Travis Kelce. I think that he is probably going to be your next greatest tight end coming out of the league. I think that eventually he'll, as long as the longevity is there, his name's right up there with your Tony Gonzalez and your Gronkowski's, the other two guys that kind of are leading the way there. I would throw Kittle in the mix, but he can't stay healthy. So that's your issue there.
Yeah, I think if we were to have a preseason, if there was a preseason and you were to tell me, hey, this year there's going to be a tight end leading in receiving yards, I'd call you crazy. Because when I think of a tight end, I think of like your short to medium route kind of guy. So like, yeah, if you were to tell me that a tight end was going to lead him receiving yards, I'd call you crazy. I would think that it would definitely be a wide receiver all the way. And I agree with you that Kelce is the next tight end to punch his ticket to the Hall of Fame. Obviously, you still have your Gronkowski playing. He's obviously punched his ticket. And I don't know why he came back. I guess Tom Brady gave him a call and said, "Yo," he's like, "I need you."
Then we have Chuko saying that he thinks that Miami's tight end can give him a run for his money. That's Mike Gesicki, who has had.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki. What did he have? Like 2 touchdowns this past week?
I think so. I think that because of the lack of stability in the running back room, Miami has used their tight end just like you would see in the Chiefs offense or in the Patriots offense when Gronk and Brady were there. That's their check down. That's their last route. Especially when you take in consideration they really only have one other receiver in Devontae Parker. So if that's locked down, your next look is your tight end. So,
well, in their case this past week, Devontae Parker, I believe, went out on an injury. So immediately the next guy to step up is going to be Gesicki. And yes, they were playing from behind, which is why they were forced to go to the air so much. And fantasy-wise, it paid off in his favor to all the owners of Mike Gesicki, who actually started him this week, coming off with 2 touchdowns. And speaking of 2 touchdowns and putting up a lot of yards, that takes me into my second winner of this week. It's going to be King Henry himself, breaking an NFL record this past week, putting up 39.2 points, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And like I just mentioned, he broke an NFL record for the first running back to have, 4 games with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And no other running back has been able to do it. I think that if there was to be a MVP candidate that wasn't a quarterback, clear cut, it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think that last year it should have been Christian McCaffrey, 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. I think that he should have been it. Personally, that's why I don't see Henry doing it this year, only because of how big of a feat it was last year that they had overlooked. So, will he get a couple of votes? Sure. Will he win? No. I mean, the award for the most part has been a quarterback's award as of late. I believe you said 2012 was the last non-quarterback, and it was a running back then.
Yeah, it was Adrian Peterson, and we have Chuko saying that he has Gesicki and Gronk as well as Derrick Henry. So from what it sounds like, your roster seems to be pretty solid. You have two solid players there with Gesicki
I would,
and
and he said that he had also had Allen. I want to know, A, is this all the same league, and B, what format is this? Is it, how many guys you have in there? So if it's
oh,
a standard 12-man league, that's got to be a
so
pretty hefty team there.
well, he said he traded Allen. So now if he's
Oh
saying
yeah,
he had Derrick Henry, that's leading me to believe that the trade was get rid of like trade Allen for Henry.
I don't know because he said that he regretted trading him. So I don't know. I would have to look on the season totals to see where Allen and Henry stack up, but I don't think I'd necessarily be upset about that, depending on who my backup was.
Well, fortunate for you, I just so happen to have those pulled up right now. So right now, Josh Allen is sitting at 355 points on the year with MFL scoring, and King Henry himself is at 294 on the year. So there is a deficit, but
And we were right. He did trade Allen for Henry.
I'm not going to say that it was a completely terrible trade. And then also the other thing that comes into play is who's your backup quarterback and who did you have at the running back position? Because if you had the depth to trade Allen away and you had a reliable quarterback to fill in his position, then I think it makes it more worth it.
Now, here's a question for you. Heading into next year, as you start to evaluate your players ahead of next year's draft, next year's league drafts, if you will, who do you target first, Allen or Henry?
Derrick Henry.
Even in a super flex? You think Henry goes first?
I think Henry goes first because like I said, I feel like there's more depth in a reliable quarterback compared to finding a reliable running back. And I know we talked about this last night. Oh, see, hold on, let me pull this up right here. This is why it makes this trade so much more realistic. I want to know what kind of league you're in and how do I get my on that kind of league to have Mahomes and Josh Allen at the helm. You had like
Unless you just plus having what else did he say? Gesicki, that's late round waivers. Gronk, you could have got late rounder waivers.
And Henry and
he traded for Henry.
And I'm assuming that's either Aaron or Rojo.
No, it's got to be Rojo. Aaron Jones would have been high.
Even still, Rojo is, had a slow start, but is really picking up.
Well, when you have three running backs and all who could be starters in Fournette, McCoy, more gadgety though, and then Rojo, I mean, you're always going to have a fight for that first spot. But speaking of fight for being in the first spot, my first loser for the week is Chase Claypool, only putting up 3 points. Only came away with 15 yards out of his 6 targets this week, putting up a dud as the Pittsburgh puts up another dud, going 11-0 and dropping 2 straight and almost watching the division slip out of their hands. If it wasn't for the miraculous running game from both sides last night. So he's a guy that is really boom or bust. I don't know if you can really trust him going into the, if you're in the playoffs, you're looking at championship weeks. Can you really trust him? Or is it, just watch because of the favorable matchup? That's really something that you got to see at depth-wise and really take into consideration these next couple of weeks because we know that he's had those 20, 30, even a 40-point game. So, really got to be careful.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because obviously at this stage in the season, just about every fantasy league out there is in their playoffs, and Chase Claypool. I mean, the only like benefit I'll give him is if you need a third running back or like a flex, whatever type of league you're in, he would probably be your best bet compared to like all the other like second and third receivers out there. Because he has had the games, but I completely agree with you. It's all matchup based. I know they have a favorable matchup this week going against Cincinnati, and Chuko says that loser would be Baltimore's defense for 0 points. I think both of their defenses were losers. I mean, they both put up,
Yeah.
they both allowed 40 points, and it seemed once Lamar did I don't know if Lamar ended up changing his cleats, but I know
I
earlier
know
in the
he
game
ran to the bathroom.
he was he was on ice skates at the beginning of the game, and yes, he did leave the game for a period of time, saying "quote unquote" I was cramping, and I quote I was cramping, and he came running back out and ended up scoring a touchdown. All around, I think, from an outsider's perspective, me being a Saints fan, looking in on that game, it was a very good game. I have a soft spot for both teams. I love Lamar fantasy wise. I drafted him in 2 leagues and somewhat regretted it. I feel like I could have gotten a better pick for my first round pick. And I love Baker Mayfield. I think I love the Browns in general. I think they have all the pieces there, and it's more sympathetic because they haven't been to the playoffs since 2002.
I think that's wrong.
Uh, I don't
I
think
think
so.
I think
So
it's before that.
in my handy dandy notes, I have the Browns only made the playoffs once in 2002. However, they did not win, so they do not have any playoff wins.
Maybe it was the last playoff win was under Belichick when he was there.
Maybe. Uh, and Chuku says, I started to laugh because I thought for a second that he was a woman with all that talk about cramping. Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I think he just had Chipotle for lunch. That's all.
Yeah, he
He,
had that. He had some spicy food, and he was feeling it, and he could not. He could not wait. Uh, Getting off topic a little bit, but I love the banter between me, you, and the viewers here. I'm gonna go into my first loser of the week. Your high
all
hope,
of the Saints.
all of the Saints. Not necessarily. I would say Saints offensive line, definitely. I still think Taysom Hill did pretty good. He's starting to show those QB traits. I'm loving it. I think he's showing to be the heir to the throne once Breeze hangs it up. However, somebody who isn't living up to the hype that they were held to is Cam Newton, point 86, not even a full point, 119 yards, 1 interception. They could not get anything going on offense. From what I saw,
I
the
mean,
first 2 drives were just 3-and-outs. Go
what do you
ahead.
want from the guy? You want him to score 40 points 2 games in a row? Jeez. He
I'm
was
not saying
tired.
I'm not saying score 40 points 2 games in a row, but you guys are on the cusp of not making the playoffs. I would at least expect a touchdown here or there. Their defense can only do so much. Held the Rams to 24 points, I believe it was 20 some odd points. And I guess it's just a matter of Aaron Donald getting a hold of them. Jalen Ramsey putting the pressure on whatever receivers they have.
That would be 0.
Exactly. You guys, I think the Patriots are entering through that door of a rebuild stage.
Yeah, and speaking of rebuilding and the Patriots and just underperforming, as the title of the show mentions, things that have not happened in a long time. The Patriots will not win the division for the first time in 11 years. That will go to either the Bills or the Dolphins, as they are still slightly in the race, I believe. Need a lot to happen, but it looks like the Bills are going to walk away with it. And I believe it's the first time, sorry, it's only the third time in the Belichick era that the Patriots have not won. I know
Yeah.
that was it Chad Pennington won it with the Jets. Then He went to Miami. He won the division there. So up until this year, the only the only quarterback to not win the division was Chad Henne. It looks like that will now be Josh Allen as well.
I'm gonna need a little clarification on this. How about them boys? Does that mean like DC for life, as in like Washington?
I believe.
Because I
Unless it's
mean,
Dallas Cowboys, he says them boys. Dallas Cowboys for
that's what I'm
life.
thinking. It's usually when people say "dem boys," they think of Cowboys. I mean, too
You
little,
mean
too late.
the NFC least?
Too little, too late. If they were doing this when, Dallas Cowboys. We get clarification here. Like I said, too little, too late. If they would have done it when Dak first got injured, I think they would have been a good contention for the NFC least. As of right now, I think it's in Washington's hands, unfortunately for you.
Speaking of the NFC least, my next loser is Danny Dimes. Only, well, putting up negative points this week, negative 2.92. Only playing a part of the game. I believe he was pulled. They say on the surface because of performance, but it looks like he was still battling an injury. I know that they are in playoff contention or division contention, rather, in the NFC least. So I think they might have rushed him back here a little bit to try to work things out and not have to put in Colt McCoy again. So, that's a toss up ahead of this week. But overall, not getting it done there, but
Wasn't it the Seahawks that Colt McCoy beat?
yeah.
So my question is, if you have a starting quarterback with or a mediocre quarterback with Danny Dimes, and he's still battling injury, he was out on the field. You could see him walking away from the huddle with a limp, and yet you have him, and then he had a backup quarterback who took down a high caliber offense with Russell Wilson. Why bench him the next week? It blows my mind.
That's just saying that, hey, you're our guy, right? That's
I
well, why would you? You're not. Nobody has ever really lost their job because of injury. It's
so
really tough to not go back to somebody because of an injury.
I
Like
yes
you saw,
I
you
go
saw
ahead.
that in the case last year with Foles and Minshew. Foles got hurt in Jacksonville. Minshew came in, lit it up. Foles came back and they gave Foles one start. Didn't wasn't doing the same thing, and then they gave it to Minshew again. So they're always going to give it back to the guy that you know who was in there before he got hurt.
So let me put it to you this way. So the Saints, and I will get into the Dallas Cowboys comment in a second. The Saints. So Taysom Hill played the 3 games, won all 3 games. They were going into a week where they were the favorites to win. Unfortunately, they didn't. However, Drew Brees could have been taken off of the IR. He could have played. But because of, they're like, we want to make sure you're 100%. We trust our guy in Taysom Hill. We trust him. So they started Taysom Hill. Unfortunately, like I said, they didn't win. But
I think that's a different situation because you got to think that the Saints already have a playoff berth locked up. You're talking about teams that if they don't win their division in the Giants, they're not making the playoffs. So they have to win out. They have to put their best foot forward, and they have to put that trust and that motivation behind their guy, and that happens to be Daniel Jones. Nobody is saying that the Saints are going to come out and say, "Hey, we're going to rush Drew Brees back because he's the franchise guy." They're going to say, "No, we have nothing to lose. Even if we lose out, we're still in the playoffs, and we're still going to push Brees forward, especially when they're already in a tough matchup to get that bye anyway with Green Bay."
well, yeah, that's what is making it worthwhile to start your best players. Is because yes, we secured the spot, but at the same time, we're right there. We're right there for that first round bye. If we were a couple games back and it was looking highly unlikely we were going to get the first round bye, then I would be like, okay, yes, we have nothing to lose. And let's get into this comment. Chuko says, you guys think the Cowboys should have kept Gilbert for the remainder of the season, or do you think it was good for them to bring Dalton back?
I think that that they should have brought Dalton back. I think that's the smart move. I don't think Gilbert is anything to write home about. They weren't really winning with him, but regardless, I don't think that offense is firing on all cylinders. I think that what Dalton brings to the team in a veteran presence um, is best off for them, especially having your rookie uh, receiver in CD Lamb underperforming and Zeke not really performing out of the backfield up to the hype that he should be anyway. So you need more of a field general, which Dalton has been. So I think it's smart to have brought him back, especially when you're talking about still being in playoff contention.
And going to the next one real quick. Chugo says, or what they should do is run back and forth between Breeze and Hill throughout the games because they both have great qualities. They were already doing that before Breeze got injured. They were mixing it up a lot. They know Taysom Hill has the qualities to catch a ball as well as throw the ball. The only reason why I wouldn't do it as often is because how do I say it? You don't want to. I don't know if you're putting it as they both play the game, but would do what they've been doing, or you're saying as start Hill one game, start Breeze the next game. Is that just throws off confidence levels, and you want to make sure that if Breeze has a good game one week, you want to make sure he stays on that hot streak. You don't want him to cool off and sit a week.
Well, there's also two other things you got to take into consideration. You're looking at if they're both out on the field, they can both be injured. And then you have no quarterbacks, and it's just Mr. 30 for 30 that you're putting your trust in. And then you have to figure they run two different playbooks. When Breeze is in and Taysom Hill is just the gadget guy, they run gadget plays with him to where people know and usually expect what's going to happen. If Taysom
So
Hill if Taysom Hill is lined up outside, it's either A going to go to him or it's going to be something opposite side to Kamara, and they're just trying to pull you one way. If he's in the backfield, it's either going to be a run or a little wheel route to him. And if Breeze is lined up outside, we know he's not getting the ball. So
and
there's not much surprise there anymore, only because they've been doing this now for 2-3 years. So a lot of teams know what to expect.
That's what he mentions is do what they were doing is what I meant. I agree with you. I think they should just continue doing what they're doing. It got them this far. But at the same time, I agree with Kevin. They've been doing it for so long that teams are starting to pick up on it. They know that with Breeze is healthy and Taysom lines up at quarterback, it's mainly a QB draw. That's unfortunate to see that teams are picking up on it. They're game planning for it. And as a Saints fan, it sucks to see that. But going down back over to my second loser for this week, it's straying away from the QB position for a little bit. We're going to go back to the running back position. James Conner, 2.3 points, 18 yards. I don't believe he was injured, Kevin.
So I don't believe so.
He just wasn't really. I don't think he was even getting the attempts to do anything. I guess because of how close the game was, they didn't want to hand off the ball. They wanted to keep going with the attacking pressure. So not 100% going to put it on James Conner, but we've been saying it every week. This is a fantasy league. We don't care if you guys win or lose. We just want you to score points.
Right. And I think that Pittsburgh is just sliding in general. I think that you look at all of their receivers. We talked about Claypool only putting up 3 points. I think that this was just a scrappy, bad game in general out of the Steelers. Trying to get back in the winning way of things. I think that they're trying to figure out who is going to be their standout stud, who is going to take the ball and say, "Hey, I know we need a win. Put it on my back." And I think that right now they're really just leaning on Big Ben being that veteran voice, and trying to make him figure things out. And he doesn't have a great supporting cast around him. Not saying that the players are bad, but saying no one is stepping up to the plate and going above and beyond in these close, scrappy games. I mean, we talk about last week, the teams that they've beat have all been pretty bad. They haven't, their last two games that they played um, against Washington, stellar defense, uh, okay, mediocre offense, and then the Bills, top 10 defense, top 10 offense, if not higher. So you're looking at playing better and better teams, and no one's stepping up to take the Steelers to the next level. And unfortunately, they put themselves in a position to, miss or miss out on winning the division. They'll probably still make the playoffs as a wild card if they do that. I don't think there's anyone that can make them fall that far, but even so,
So
long way from grace.
So yeah, if you put James Conner in your lineup this week, it's unfortunate for you, unless you're in Chuko's case where his opponent was playing him. So I mean, it helps you out in the long run. And another player who is very unfortunate for you if you started him is going to be my final loser for this week. It's going to be Jamison Crowder. 1.7 points, 2 receptions for 7 yards. I don't want to harp on the guy too much. He's got Adam Gase at the helm. He's got Sam Darnold throwing it to him. All I can say at the end of the day is I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your burden. But at the same time, this is the worst passing defense that they were going against in the Seattle Seahawks. So that should come into play a little bit. When you catch pass, you should be able to do something with it. Because I don't. Is he considered their number one guy?
Yeah.
James. Okay, yeah. So you're considered the number one guy. So, and like I said, it's the worst defense in the league. You should be able to do something at least. I didn't see, however,
well,
how
the issue there is their offensive line.
Yeah.
Their offensive line does not give anybody who decides to want to play quarterback that week for the Jets any amount of time to throw the ball. Although you look at the Jets, they're really letting the city down. You watch the Bills go beat Seattle, the Giants beat Seattle. They try to make it a trifecta, but you let us down, bud.
I think everybody expected it. I think even I expected the score to be what the score was, 40-3. I think everybody just about expected it. And we mentioned it earlier, big matchup between Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And that leads me to my final winner for this week. I believe we both had high hopes for him on the season coming into a new team. Stephon Diggs, 27.6 points, 10 receptions, 130 yards, as well as a touchdown. I think he found his home for a little while, to say the least.
I think so. I think that I think it's a good matchup. You've got a good supporting cast there, John Brown. You've got all of the running backs that they decide to want to use any given week. Singletary is back there. Moss is back there. Allen can run himself. So, I'm really high on Diggs, as you know. I'm really high on pairing him with Allen. I think having a quarterback receiver combo helps in a lot of cases. It's something that I try to do. So, hats off to him.
Yeah, and real quick, Chuko says that adding on to his already stacked roster, he does have Diggs as well. You, my good man, are a very, very lucky owner here.
I want to know what Chuko's record is.
Yeah,
he's got to be.
Yeah,
he said he played last week. He said he played last week, so we know he's in the playoffs. And by hearing just about half his team, 75% of his team, I wouldn't want to play him. So
yeah, he's got like a first rounder there. I'm sorry, he has 2 first rounders with Derrick Henry and Patrick Mahomes. He had a second rounder with Josh Allen. He has Diggs. I believe Diggs, his value, I would see him go in the second round. Rojo easily increased his value with this season. But back to Diggs, I think the biggest thing that helps Diggs is we were talking about it earlier. Josh Allen with the strong arm that he has, he worked on the accuracy over the years, and I really think it's paying dividends now that he has a deep ball kind of guy with Diggs, and we know Diggs can be that guy for him. He showed it off in Minnesota, especially with the Minneapolis Miracle. But Kev, do you have any more winners or losers for this week?
That is it for this week.
All right. And with that coming to an end, we move on over to the NFL news brought to you by The Recast, the official music of FSA. And real quick, Chico says he has Baltimore and Colts defense. Jeez Louise. That is...
I would say that the Colts defense is probably the better starter. I've never held two. I would say Baltimore's defense, you probably try to hang your hat on last year, and they haven't lived up to the hype. I would say the Colts have been pretty decent for you, though. Although I would never hold two.
Yeah, I would never hold two, depending on how big the rosters are. And also, the other question I had is how big of a league is it? How many teams are there? Being as you have a stacked of a team.
I gotta say 10.
I would say 10. But while we wait for an answer, I'm going to hop on over to the NFL news here, kicking it off with the Chiefs and the Packers both clinch their division this week. Steelers clinch their playoff berth, even though they lost this week, but I believe it was with somebody losing, they clinched the league. Oh, that is why. 6-man league. That is he meant 8. So he meant 8. I won't even lie. I love 8-man leagues just because of how stacked you can get your teams, and it's fun to see high scoring games as always. But diving back into the news, Alex Smith has calf strain. He went out late, or I believe it was before halftime in the game, and Dwayne Haskins took over and finished off the job. He hasn't been ruled out for this Sunday against Seattle, but I would keep an eye on him. Matt Stafford has a rib cartilage injury, and basically what I saw just before the show, they said they weren't overly optimistic about him. So I don't, yet again, not 100% if he's playing this weekend or not. But somebody who definitely is out this week is going to be Henry Ruggs. He has been placed on the COVID-19 list, so he's going to miss Thursday night's game against the Chargers. Deebo Samuel is set to undergo an MRI with a hamstring injury. And, I'm going to save that one for last. For that, the Raiders fire defensive coordinator Paul Gunther after the 44-27 loss to the Colts. And their defensive lineman coach Rod Marinelli will be the interim defensive coordinator. And to wrap it up with the NFL news, the Bills win over the Steelers, officially eliminated the Patriots from winning the division after 11 straight years, which is an NFL record. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, Kevin, it is only the third time in the Belichick era.
Sad day.
It is a sad day.
That's why I'm wearing black today.
I mean, the only thing you can kind of hang your hat on is the fact that you guys aren't 100% out of the playoffs yet with the wild card spot, but unfortunately, it isn't looking good in your favor.
Yeah, I needed the Browns to win last night. But
so Chuko says, what are your guys' winners and losers for kickers?
Are those people?
Oh my goodness, Kevin, you should know that I would be the first person to say that kickers and punters are people too, even though sometimes those punters don't get to go out on the field, because I've had my fair share of experience with seeing Thomas Morstead stay on the sideline. Who there actually are a couple kickers that I had in mind who would be my winners for this week. Let me kind of
While you
dive in.
go ahead and you look that up, I will move us on to our next section here in the show as time's running against us here. Our Odd Man Out segment where we like to go over a couple of matchup oriented starts and sits of the guy of the week. Some guys that we are going to have on our bench, some guys to replace them in our lineup, and then maybe a guy or two that we were looking to add off the waivers. And as always, as we go through it, if you drop your lineup predicaments in the comments, we will debate them on air and give you our opinions who you should start in your particular situation. For
Okay,
me,
real
go
quick,
ahead.
I have uh I have two quick. I have a quick winner and a quick loser based off of performance and not fantasy stat line. So first winner would be the Honey Badger, or no, the Money Badger. I think his name is the Chargers kicker for winning or kicking the game winner, and
Yeah.
the loser would have to be Will Lutz.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
What Willie only had 2 points.
well, also because he missed a field goal in the game with the Eagles. Had he made that field goal, the score would have been tied, and they
Yeah.
would have obviously went into overtime. But I'm gonna let you kick it off on our odd man out section. Go
For
ahead.
me, this week I'm going to look to sit Calvin Ridley. They are playing against a tough interdivision game against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, obviously, we know has a number one rush defense in the league, has a formidable pass defense, not as high, about middle of the pack. Um, but this being a must win game for Tampa, as they are still in the hunt to win the division and push the Saints out, I am looking to sit him in place. I'm going to start Chase Claypool. I know I had him as one of my losers for this week. No, I think that he's going to bounce back, as he kind of foreshadowed earlier. They do have a favorable matchup this week, playing Cincinnati. I think this is a game that's going to be a must win for them to try to hold on to the division on the opposite side of things. So I'm starting Chase Claypool, sitting Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I agree with you. With Tampa Bay's defense, you can either get a lockdown defense or you can get a defense that gives up what is it, like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. I'm gonna continue your trend of bullying the Atlanta offense here, and I'm gonna say to sit Todd Gurley this week. He's battling none other than a knee injury, back and forth with his knees, and as you mentioned, Tampa Bay does have the best rushing defense, being one of 5 teams to allow less than 100 yards. So I think that with the injury and the fact they're going up against a good defensive front, Todd Gurley would not be an ideal starter. In his place, I'm going to say to start the young buck, Jonathan Taylor. He's on a hot streak right now. He put up 24 and a half points 2 weeks ago when they played Houston, and he just put up 33 points against the Raiders. And, you know, what do they say? History repeats itself.
Yep.
So if history is going to repeat itself, he's going to put up at least 24 points against Houston. Houston has one of the worst rushing defenses, if not the worst defense overall, or one of the worst defenses overall. I like him. I think that he's in a good fit with Indy's offense.
For me, my next start sit of the week, I'm going to look to sit Russell Wilson this week. I know typically it wouldn't be a guy that we would think about putting in that situation, but he has had a few up and down weeks. He is playing in a very tough matchup this week. He's coming off of kind of a cupcake against the Jets, so I think that he might be building that confidence back up within the division and might start to play a little bit looser with the ball, which leads right into Washington's defense's favor with the young bucks up front in Patrick Queen and Chase. Sorry, not Patrick Queen. Chase Young, rather. I feel like this is another step up game for them. We already know what they did playing tough matchups against the Steelers in recent weeks. They are coming on their own here. So sit Wilson. In his place, I'm going to start Jalen Hurts. I think that he comes back in, starts for the second straight week. I think that, last week's win only gives him a little bit more confidence. We talk about the game film thing. I don't think there's been enough on him yet. I think that, playing Arizona, they kind of have a bend, don't break offense. They've been in higher scoring games. I think this leads right into what Hurts can do, especially, with his legs. If he can't find something through the air, we know he's liable to take off on him. So start Hurts, sit Wilson.
It's a bold move there. It's a bold move, but I do have a soft spot for Washington's defense. They are doing very well taking down Pittsburgh and then taking down San Fran in the way that they did with their defense completely running the game.
Yep.
For Chuko here, our opinions for two teams in the Super Bowl this year, just for you, since you have been an all-star viewer, we will dive into that at the end of the show, just so we can kind of get through all this stuff that we have planned out here. So I'm going to say to sit whoever starts, either Daniel Jones or Colt McCoy. But with Daniel Jones having the little limp there, who knows? The Browns, yes, they just lost in a very high-scoring game with Baltimore. But I still think that, they have a chance to make a push to the playoffs. I think they could be the team to take that second place spot in the AFC North. And as always, you have their defensive front led by the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, Myles Garrett. He's been doing impressive things this year. He's tied for third with the most sacks this year, I believe at 10.5. And, when you have somebody who can easily get pressure on a quarterback, you're either going to get a sack or you're going to force them to make mistakes such as fumble the ball or throw an interception. I'm going to say to sit whichever quarterback starts for the New York Giants. And in his place, I'm going to go with the up and down man himself, Jared Goff. And Chuku confirms here, yes, 10.5. Thank you, my good man. I'm going to say to start Jared Goff, and he had a quote-unquote off week with 16.58 points against the Patriots. And as my average brother, Kevin, and his co-host on Wednesday night's show, Brian, have mentioned, he is have a good game 1 week, and then the next week have a down week. So I believe 2 weeks ago, he scored over 20 points. This week, he had under 20 points. And they have a very favorable matchup this week against the Jets, allowing the second most passing yards in a game, being 286. I think that this week is going to be his up week, so to say.
For me, the guy that I'm going to look this week to add off the waivers, whether it be because of injury or because of matchup, somebody that I think that is going to pay dividends too, if you need to fill in ahead of your playoff week, is going to be Ricky James. Very unknown, very very deep leagues. He may be owned just because I know 2 weeks ago he had a pretty big week. 49ers wide receiver, but Deebo Samuel's going down, and Nicky Mullins having an off week this past week. I think that they bounce back this week, and he should be their top target.
Just to correct, it was Richie. Just so people so people don't search his name and they're like, wait, hold up, he's giving me a fake name here.
Richie James.
So this is gonna
He's got
sound.
two first names. It's not even fair. He's got to pick.
My goodness. So I'm gonna be a little redundant here for my waiver wire pickup of the week. I'm going to piggyback off of your pick last week. I'm going to say Jalen Hurts again, solely because when I was doing my little notes for the show yesterday, took a little look over at redraft and saw that only two. He was owned in only 2 out of 6 leagues. So that's still 4 leagues that do not own him. I was nice enough to leave him for somebody else because the wound was still there from us losing. And obviously, with the performance that he had going up against the top 5 rushing defense, it is not out of the equation that he can do it again against the Cardinals. And we all know how the NFC least is. So it's still anyone's division. They're still, in contention for winning the division and making a playoff push. So it's going to be nothing but 100% from them as well as their defense. I'm going to say to add Jalen Hurts.
That brings us to our favorite segment of the show, our Top Dogs, brought to you by Nature Coast Tailgating. Josh, where are we so far this season?
So I'm pulling away a little bit here, Kevin. Pulling away. Last week, our scores was 14-10. This week with Russell Wilson outscoring Taysom Hill 30 to about 19, and Tyreek Hill outscoring DK 26-17. I am now leading 16-10.
And for those that don't know or have not caught us live yet here and are viewing for the first time, I will recap for you guys. Our Top Dog segment is where we try to predict who we believe is going to be the top scorers across 2 categories. We're going to both select a quarterback and a flex, either a running back, tight end, or receiver, and then go head to head against each other. If my player that I choose outscores Josh's, I will get 1 point. But if I predict the top dog or the highest scorer within that category, I get a bonus point for 2 on the week for that position. And I am at a deficit this week, so I'm going to need to hit big this week.
Go ahead and who are you going to use at the quarterback position to get you out of this hole?
I am going to take somebody that is going to try to outdo Taysom Hill's performance as more of a gadgety running quarterback. Since Taysom couldn't get it done, he's going to show you how to do it. I'm taking Kyler Murray against the Eagles' very underperforming defense.
Oh, wow. Wow, coming out of the woodworks there. So for my pick at the quarterback position, I'm going to go from younger and more gadget guy type of player to more older, sit in the pocket type of guy and dissect a defense with his arm. I'm going to go Tampa Tom with a somewhat favorable matchup against the Falcons. Falcons a little shady with their defense here and there. They have their moments. But I think with it being a division game, Tampa Bay still in the running to win that division. I know right now they're still secure in the wild card spot. And as always, with the weapons that Tampa Tom has at his disposal with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Gronk. And as always, his favorite 4th man, Scotty Miller. I'm going with Tampa Tom. And hopefully it will help me extend this league. But Kevin, who is going to be your flex?
At my flex, I am going to take somebody who does just that and has been flexing on the whole league all year long. He is your receiving leader in yards for the season, Travis Kelce.
Okay, I like it. I believe this is the second time all year we've seen a tight end make an appearance on the top dog section ever since our very first episode when we had Brian on here.
I believe we took Kittle when he came back
I
from
honestly,
his injury.
I know I've never taken a tight end. I've usually went
I
running
might
back.
I might have taken him. I will have to double check the archives on that, but it is a rarity um, to see them score that high. Very consistent, yes. If you're taking Waller or Kelsey, but have not often edged out the top dog position. I think he does it this week.
So I agree with you. However, there is one name. There's only one name that comes to mind of a man who can outscore a hot commodity like Travis Kelsey. I have been mentioning it through all the weeks on this show. If I ever got a sizable lead, so I'm going into my safe of tricks here. I'm pulling out a stop on you. I'm bringing out the weapon of Willie Lutz as my flex position. I've been saying it all year, guys, that I was bringing a kicker out if I got a lead.
That's just
And
a slap in the face, sir.
yes, it's a little flick to the face. But if Will Lutz outscores Travis Kelsey, that would be a slap
if,
to the face.
if Will Lutz outscores Kelsey, I'll just quit. I'll pack
If
my things. I'll be on my way.
if Will Lutz outscores Travis Kelsey, it would break the internet.
I think
But
so.
we will see this week, and that brings us to the end of our favorite section. And Chuko says that's baby powder slap. Yes, it is, sir. That sounds like a pie slap. But that brings us to the end of our favorite section, our top dog section, brought to you by Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship sponsor. And real quick, before we wrap up the show, I think it is only fair we deliver what we have been asked for, Kevin. Real quick, who do you think, as of right now, is going to be in the Super Bowl this year?
If I had to pick right now, I would say the Bills.
Ooh. Okay.
And I would say the Bills and Tampa Tom.
Really?
Yeah.
That is coming out. That is okay. I like it. I respect it.
Even if they don't win the division, if they don't knock off the Saints, I think that they will still make the playoffs.
Do you think there's a little bit of animosity, a little bit of chemistry there? If both those teams make it to the Super Bowl, you have Tom Brady and Josh Allen, former rivals, going at it. I think it makes it just more of a better game.
Yeah,
Now,
I think that the experience is there on Brady's side to get things done. I think that as they get closer, he only plays better. I think that going through the month of December is usually his month. I don't know how many losses he's got on December, but I know it's low. And I know ahead of the playoffs, once things start to sniff out, they've got a pretty veteran team. Antonio Brown's been there before. You got a couple older guys. McCoy's still in the locker room. He's been there before to help your young running backs. You've got your receiving core hasn't been there yet, but they're a little bit older. They're not they're not little puppies anymore. Been in the league a few years. You got Gronk there to help those guys out with those nerves and push things through. I think that they do enough to get it done. Now, I won't say that they'll win necessarily. You'll have to tune in a few weeks once we get a little bit closer and we see that picture carved out a little bit better. But if I had to guess right now, I would say Bills and Tampa.
so I'm gonna be one of the most mainstream kind of people. Obviously, we all know I'm going with the Saints. I think Breeze comes back. Yes, I think they're going to lose this week to Kansas City. I don't think there's a way to take them down. But I still think that New Orleans has the offense to do it.
Rematch?
One second. So I think that New Orleans has the offense to do it. It all depends on their defense. If their defense can stand up, if they can be that top 5 rushing defense that they've been doing for the past 3 years, I think they can make it. Now, on the other side of things, you mentioned a rematch, and I'm assuming that's a rematch of this weekend. That's where I'm going. I'm going to say it's going to be Kansas City on the AFC side. I think Kansas City locks down the first round bye. Kansas City is just a young, explosive offense and defense. They are, like, when it comes to mind of a well-rounded team on both sides of the ball, the number one, like, clear-cut choice is Kansas City. And I'm in your same situation. I think New Orleans is going to make it. Are they going to beat Kansas City? Probably not. But for the sole purpose of what I've been saying, so Chuko says, I agree, Bills, but with the Saints. I'm assuming that's what that says.
Yeah.
Good man. I like that. I've been saying it all year, Kevin. # the final ride, because Breeze has mentioned it is his final year before he heads on over, puts on a suit, and heads to Sunday night, I believe it is. So we would definitely see, with later weeks to come, and then once we do enter into the playoffs for the NFL. But at this point in time, I believe this wraps it up for our show. Kevin, I don't want to take away your spotlight here, so I'm going to hand it over to you to close us out.
Before we head on out, we want to remind you that we come on again every Tuesday night. You can check us out live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in tomorrow night to see myself and Brian on the flagship show, the Fanatically Real broadcast. And then after that, you will have the Empty Wagon guys on Saturday at midnight. Josh, Brad, and Eric will be giving you their heroes and villains. Then you can always join us for our happy hour on Sundays at E15, just before the kickoff of the late game, which I know is changing here in a few weeks once we get the Saturday games underway. And then wrap up the week with the Empty Wagon guys again on Monday nights as they recap how they did and how they fared on their predictions of those heroes and villains that I mentioned. And then, as always, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Play QB54, our Arm and Leg League sponsor. We want to thank Football Darts, our broadcast sponsor. Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship sponsor. And then all of our other bowl game sponsors in Finger Lake Mercantile, Deep South Creations, Southern Siren Sugar and Scrub, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, and as always, the Recast, the official music of FSA. Josh,
Kevin,
any last words there, bud?
So all I can say is let's hope let's outscore Travis Kelce, and let's break the internet.
Let's hope that does not happen. And I'm sure Brian will have something to say about that tomorrow. But as always, remember to set your lineups as we still have a few weeks ahead of us. Chuko, I hope that you join us in the FSA and leave that 8-man league behind. I know that your team is stacked, but I hope you set your lineups as well, as I can only imagine you're in the playoffs. Josh, my average brother, thank you for hopping on here as always, and have a great night.
You too. Everybody remember, kickers and punters are people too.